Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is Joshua Harris and Scott Hunt with the Lenoir Amateur Radio Club. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm going to ask you, tell us a little bit about the Amateur Radio Club.
Okay, well, the Lenoir Amateur Radio Club was founded in 1986 here in Lenoir, North Carolina, obviously. And we are an organization of radio enthusiasts who just enjoy fellowship with each other and enjoy the hobby of amateur radio. We do a little bit of everything from VHF communications to HF communications, digital communications. The beauty of the hobby of amateur radio is that there's just so much stuff involved in it. You can get drowned in it because there's so many things to do, and once you have a taste of one thing, you see the next shiny object, ooh, I want to try that. And it's a very invigorating and satisfying and happy hobby that keeps us occupied and busy at all times.
And spending money.
And spending money. Okay. I'm going to ask each of you, how did you get involved or what sparked your interest in amateur radio?
You want me to go first?
Sure, you can go first.
I really got involved with just kind of from an emergency preparedness standpoint. If cell phones go out, everybody relies on their cell phone. I mean, nobody has a landline telephone anymore. So if cell phones go out, if power goes out, amateur radio probably won't go out. Most likely there'll be some kind of amateur radio communications happening in your community. And if you're familiar with that and you know the frequencies that people are talking on, then you'll be able to find out what's happening, in your town or in the county or in, the area of your state. So that's what drew me to it.
I was, as a child, my dad was in the Citizens Band or CB radio. He was KTZ 1256, the Carolina Hooter. Shout out to my dad. A long time ago, and so I've always been around some type of radio communications. In my previous career of law enforcement, I had to use radio communications. And I've always been interested in amateur radio. And during the time, I can't remember the exact year it was, but there was a requirement for Morse code that you had to have in order to get the amateur radio license. And that actually put a lot of people off. Well, several years ago, the FCC dropped the requirement for Morse code, and it was no longer required to be licensed. And I'm the type of person that I want to experience, almost everything before I leave this great earth of ours. And I decided one day I'm going to get my amateur radio license. So I've looked and found the club here was sponsoring a technician's class at the Foothills Community Workshop in Granite Falls. I went and sat in the class, and I believe you were in the class with me.
Were we in the same class?
Yeah, we were in the same class together.
That's right.
And they had a testing session, and I got my first 2 licenses in one day, and it's been nothing but fun, ever since then. And I've been licensed since 2019?
I think we took the class in 2020, didn't we? Right before everything.
I believe it's 2019. I think it's 2019. Yeah.
Those years blur together. I mean,
Anyway, it was shortly before everything shut down.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned licensure. Do you have to be licensed to participate? How does that work?
To participate in?
To participate in the Amateur Radio Club, or I'm assuming to be an operator you have to be licensed.
That's correct.
So radio is a spectrum on the the electromagnetic spectrum. So there's radio as a certain part, and then there's light, and then so on and so forth. And then within radio, there's certain bands. And frequencies. And when you get licensed, you can operate on particular frequencies that are set aside for amateur radio and people that have licenses. And
for your license class.
Right.
So there's only a small segment carved out for technician licenses. Then it grows once you get your general license, then you get everything.
Almost similar to like having a driver's license. If you have a regular license, you can drive a car. If you have a Class B, you can drive a bus. If you have is that correct? Class
CDL.
C? Class C, CDL,
Right.
so on. It gives you access to, things that everybody else is supposed to not be on, so you can kind of, do your hobby in your space.
And the good part about that is it allows you to grow. Like I said, there's so many things in there. You can only do certain things as a technician. Where once you get that general license, the spectrum or the bandwidth opens up for you more, so you can do more things, more like HF or other types of communications.
What are some of the ways you use the amateur radio?
You want me to go first?
mine is going to be short. So mostly I just listen. I don't really do a lot of talking, and I have on the radio I don't.
Oh my gosh, really, friend?
So I mostly just listen, and then I just have the first license you can get, which is the technician license. So the bands that I can talk on are limited. And again, I'm mostly in it for emergency preparedness. But there's a lot you can do, and Scott does a lot more on radio.
Yeah, I'm an extra class, and so I can do just about anything that amateurs are allowed to do. I'm pretty big on the HF side of it. I'm the Tar Heel Emergency Net Manager for the ARRL Tar Heel Emergency Net here, and so I do, and that is a multi-state net, and a net is something where people check in via radio to it. It's almost like a meeting every night. They check in and give reports, either via weather, how your sciatica's doing that day, just to talk about just about anything that you want to talk about. And that's on the upper end of the, well, actually it's on the lower end of the spectrum, but it's the upper license class. I do that, of course, being president of the radio club. We do talk on VHF communications. I didn't bring mine. He brought his and chastised me for not bringing mine. But that's a VHF radio, so the technicians can talk on those. So I do a lot of listening on VHF and most of my talking on HF. I also like to do the digital things, which is things like FT8, FT4, Whisper. There's just different modes you can do digital, so it's not all voice. It's Morse code, you can do that. And I'm not very proficient in Morse code. We do have operators in the club that will knock your socks off if you just what they can listen to or copy and reply just by pressing a key.
It's impressive.
It is amazing. And we'll talk about field day in a little bit. But if you come to field day, you'll be able to see a couple of operators doing that.
Well, you opened the door for field day, so go ahead and let's talk about field day.
Go ahead.
What is it? When is it? Where is it?
So field day, we're going to have, our club is participating in field day. So field day is a national event that's put on by the ARRL, American Radio Relay League.
Correct, yes.
Right. So it's a national organization of amateur radio operators across the country. And every year they have a field day, and basically it's an opportunity for local clubs and anybody in radio really to set up their gear and participate and check their gear and practice emergency communications, make contacts across the state, see how many people you can talk to, and basically show the public what amateur radio is all about, how it benefits the community, how you can help with emergency situations, how you can help with even like events like bike races and stuff like that. And it's going to be Saturday, June 25th and Sunday, June 26th at Mulberry Rec. We'll start setting up about 9 a.m. Saturday. Yeah. The field day officially starts at 2 right. And then goes for 24 hours. Right.
The reason we're starting setting up at 9 a.m. because, as Joshua said, it's kind of for emergency preparedness. So the limitations of the rules for field day is you can only have a certain amount of hours to set up. So, for example,
something happened.
Yeah,
and you got to get set.
If there was a disaster, we don't have 2 days to go set up. So you can't go out for Friday before and throw antennas in trees. Nope, they can only give you a couple of hours to go out there and set up before the event starts. And as he said, it's 24 hours, so it's from 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. the next Sunday, and we will be operating overnight. So for the people that are working late to say, I wish I could go to that, but I have to work. Come on out, we're going to be out anyway. So somebody will be out there all the time, and it also gives the community a chance to get on the radio. If you're not licensed but you want to try it, as long as one of our licensed people are there with you on the radio, you can talk around the world.
And you'll be able to see other radios and other antennas. This is a handheld, so this is pretty common. But you'll have box radios, desktop radios. You can have mobile radios in vehicles, and you can see all the different technology that the club has there.
Besides field day and talking to others, tell me about some of the things you do as amateur radio or licensed radio folks. What are some of the tasks you do for the community?
Well, for the community, it's mostly emergency preparedness. We are, our club is affiliated with the Caldwell County Emergency Management System. We have the ARES organization and an Auxcom organization. One of our club members is the liaison, Mr. Frank Gordon. He does an excellent job keeping the club and the emergency management together and apprised of what's going on. And in the event that we're called upon, He does a great job of mobilizing us and getting us, if the need arises, for our help in communications. Again, amateur radio is just it's mainly a hobby, but the facets of emergency management are something that we together as a club do. Now, individuals, we'll get together and do things. We help each other out. Mm-hmm. We do have members aging from, just starting out, young people to, people in their, twilight years. And sometimes people need help. And once you get in this, when I said there's so many things you can do in it, there's so much to learn too. But that's part of the fun of it, learning these things. And not everybody knows everything. I don't know everything. I have Elmers. Mentors in amateur radio are called Elmers. I still have Elmers in the club that I go to and teach me things because I have questions every day. And if there's a answer to a question, somebody in the club has it. Somebody in the club has it. So we help each other out a lot, teaching each other. If I have an antenna that needs to be installed, people will go out and help throw a wire in a tree. The Elmer, when I first started, he came all the way, he lives over near Lake Hickory. He drove all the way up to my house in Patterson and helped me put everything together. And I couldn't have done it by myself, so we help each other out.
We also do, the club also does help with a couple local bike races, I think, with communications, or we have in the past. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if that's happening in the future, but in the past, those are kinds of things you can help out with the community to keep track of cyclists, when you're riding 50, 60 miles or whatever. Radios can talk.
Or cell phones can't. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, that COVID word, has kind of kept all of us and a lot of our activities down in the last couple of years. And we're just starting now to start back up and build up. And we've had our first couple of in-person meetings. Mm-hmm. During COVID, we were meeting virtually by using WebEx by Cisco. And we have very good attendance, believe it or not, because people wanted to get together. Very good attendance. But we're also having good attendance at our regular club meetings. And we meet the third Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. at the Game Wheel Fire Department. So if anybody's interested, if you're interested in amateur radio, come out the third Thursday, 7 o'clock, Game Wheel Fire Department on Highway 18. That's 18, yes, mm-hmm. Highway 18.
So if you can't make it to field day at Mulberry Rec on the
25th,
mm-hmm.
Game Wheel Fire Department, third Thursday is a great place to start. You also have a website.
Yeah, n4lnr.org. And that has information about the club, about the meetings, about the frequencies that the club generally tries to talk on, any upcoming events. There's a story on there about field day. We have a Facebook page, and I think it's just N4LNR as well. Yes. But there's a link to that on the website too. And I think the meetings are the second Thursday.
Are they? Okay.
I think they're the second Thursday. Check the website.
Check the website. It's on a Thursday. It's on a Thursday. Good folks, good fellowship.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Gentlemen, is there anything else we need to talk about field day, about why people should come out and learn about amateur radio?
It's fun. Just, come on out and see what we do, see why these old guys with radios are having so much fun.
It's the thing that I really love about it is that radio, unlike your phone, unlike the internet, unlike even watching emergency television or anything like that, there's no middleman in radio, right? I can pick up a radio and I can talk to Scott, and I can call Scott and say, hey, what are you doing? There's no middleman. If the phone goes down, I don't have to worry about it. That's one of the things that I really love about radio is it's really the only direct peer-to-peer communication tool that we have. So,
well, in my mind, I keep going to the emergency side of it, and we had a missing hiker on Wilson Creek. Mm-hmm. Well, phone service on Wilson's Creek is non-existent.
Right.
So, you're not sending an email. Your cell phone might as well be a brick. Mm-hmm. But amateur radio, you can use.
And you can talk a long way. I mean, so you get your first license and you're limited, but you can do. We'll get into some more detail, but you can get on 6 meter, which goes quite a ways. When we're talking distance, like a couple hundred miles, maybe. Does that sound correct? Or
yeah, maybe for 6 maybe.
But then the lower, longer waves, radio waves, can go a lot farther. And there's ways to talk to people in England, talk to people in Canada
for free,
without a phone and without the internet, and it's just really. it's a really impressive technology that not a lot of people really think about, because we have phones. You know, I grew up with the internet, and you know, I was making friends across the country without even knowing about this, you know, technology. But if internet goes down, you know, if the phones ever go down and you need to find out what's happening, this is the place to find it out.
Yeah, well, one thing about amateur radio too, your Wilson's Creek example is a great example, because, you know, not repeaters, but VHF is a line of sight, you know, communications. And, you know, where we live, there's a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, this radio might not be able to get over a specific peak, but we have the technology that we can have mobile repeaters, where this radio will hit a repeater and it repeats out to another radio, and we daisy chain, and we can extend communication just based off of mobile technology. Where cell phone goes down, you have to have a technician go out to the tower. We can have a couple of cars out there and have communications up within, you know, 30 minutes.
Which is very impressive. As I've listened to you talk, one of the questions that pop in my mind, because I'm not a very technical person, is that a requirement? I mean, do you have to have some kind of technical skill, or just an interest in radio?
Just an interest in radio. We have members of the club all walks of life. We have educators, we have engineers, we have musicians, we have, you know, from you name it, they've done it. And not everybody is an electrical engineer or a computer engineer. Anybody can do it. Anybody can. There is an educational aspect that you have to take. You have to take a couple of tests. Well, for each license, there's one test. But there's study material out there, and it's very easy to understand. And test is 35 questions long. Yeah, I think it's 50 for extra. And it's very easy to do. Anybody can do it.
And, you know, you just have to have the willingness to kind of try to read a little bit and learn a little bit and start to understand what you're talking about. It's like anything, you know. If you've never read anything about a subject, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But once you start reading about, you know, mechanical engineering, if you ever take apart an engine, you know, it's similar to just, you know, if you have the interest, then come visit the club, and we'll start showing you the radio and frequencies, and talk about, you know, explain what we're talking about. Yeah. And once you grasp the concepts, then it's just how much do you want to learn. For example, like you can talk to, you know, astronauts on the space station, right? Which is one of my to-dos. But I mean, you can literally talk to the astronauts when they're in the space station as they're coming around for a certain amount of time. You can talk to people across the ocean. It's just really impressive. You can bounce signals off the moon.
Yes.
I mean, it's just really cool.
It's very cool.
Which brings me to another question. Is there a minimum age to be an operator?
No, there's not a minimum age. Not a minimum age at all.
And not only is there not a minimum age, you don't even have to have a license to talk if I'm here with you. If I have a license, and I'm like, all right, here, Paige, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Yes.
And then you can just, you know, you just have to have somebody with you that has the right to talk on that frequency. So that's why you need to come to field day.
Exactly.
Right, I was trying to say, and again, that's why we need field day,
Yeah.
so that you can experience that. And again, if you have a child that's interested, it's probably really a good time to let them see, let them explore.
It's like a driver's license. You know, you really don't know how to drive a car until you're behind the wheel. And until you actually get on the radio, and that's the fun side of it too, you don't really experience it. So the tests are just a gateway to get on the radio. And they're not that difficult. So.
And you mentioned mentors, so you do have somebody that's kind of helping you along through this process.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Yeah, come to join a club, make a friend, somebody that knows more than you. And I mean, everybody's always willing to help out.
Never heard anybody say no.
Are there more than one amateur radio club in the county? I should say. Is there more than one radio?
Not in the county. There are other ones around, but not in the county.
Okay.
There's a club in Watauga County, I think, a club in Burke County.
In Catawba.
Is there one in Catawba? Maybe one in Catawba.
Yeah, I believe so.
So normally there's clubs in your county. I mean, if you have enough people there. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
And really, that's why you should do it. It's because it's fun.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
And it's not terribly affordable. This is probably like a $50 radio.
You mean unaffordable?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not. Oh right, yeah. It's not unaffordable. It can be unaffordable.
Yes.
But you can get a radio for...
You can start at not a lot.
Like any good hobby, there's always the entry level, and then there's the expensive levels, but yeah.
This is a $25, $35 radio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you do not have to have a license to listen. So if you're interested and you want to get a radio and listen, by all means, feel free to do that. Now, you have to know how to program it, and it helps if you're licensed to know how to program it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have to have a license to listen.
I mean, it's similar to, when you think of AM, FM radio, so you have this AM, FM radio in your car, and it's programmed, and you just turn the dial till you hear something. So it's similar to that. You have to know where the dial is and how to turn the dial. But once you know that, you can just go through and listen to see if anybody's talking. And you can buy radios. I have a radio that can listen to a lot of different bands that I can't talk on, but you can turn it on and listen.
Well, as you grow in the field, then you can be right the thing you need.
That's correct. And you can find used gear. There's all kinds of...
Most of the gear I use I've found buy pre-owned. Because ham radio operators are very meticulous and particular about their gear, so most of it's taken care of. And my first radio I bought before I was even licensed, I hope my wife doesn't see this, but it was over $500 for a handheld, Kenwood. And I still have the radio, but it's as he said, this is not too terribly expensive, but there are other ones out there that together we couldn't afford.
But like a lot of good things that are worth money, you generally get what you pay for. So this radio is not going to have the sound quality and be able to narrow your bandwidth and all kind of things that more expensive radios can do. But you got to start somewhere.
But to get started.
Oh yeah. To get started, you probably want this. You don't want to go. I wouldn't go buy several $100,000 radio to get started.
Yeah, I mean, get started. Make sure you like it, especially if you're talking about kids getting involved and learning early. It's a good place to start.
Right. And one other plug for the radio club is if you go get your license and if you kind of introduce yourself to the club first, we'll give you your first year membership for free. And if you upgrade your license, then it kind of carries over for the next year.
So staying on top of the licensure is one way to get free membership in the club.
That's correct.
And your license is good for 10 years,
10
is that
years.
correct?
10 years.
So once you get your license, you've got it for 10 years, and you have time to learn and hopefully are able just to renew it. I don't even know, do you test to renew? I don't think
No,
so.
you don't have to test to renew.
So,
pay your money and you're done.
yeah.
Okay.
Pay the FCC.
That's right.
The federal government, yes, they will get their share.
That's correct.
Oh, yes.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here today, and thank you for teaching me about amateur radios. A lot of stuff I didn't know.
Are you coming to field day?
You know what? I just might.
Please do.
so.
Please do.
I mean,
We'll get you on the radio.
I don't know that I'm ready to be on the radio. I mean, but I do TV, so.
I do radio.
Well, again, I know you're trying to cut it, but do we?
No, go ahead.
There's two. When we're at field day, it's some clubs use it as a contest. You say, how many contacts can we make? How many states can we talk to? But other clubs use it for fun. And we're kind of in the middle this year. If we want a contest, we will. If we want to just have fun and just play radio and talk to the community, that's what we're going to do. Once somebody's making a contact, there's another person logging the call. So I might be here being the operator, while Joshua's over here, logging who I'm talking to. So he's got to listen to see who I'm talking to and get the signal report, their location, and things like that. So if you don't want to get on the radio, you can experience it by logging, by listening, or just by typing in who we're talking to. So there's different things you can do to be it. But if you come out there, we'll get you to try both.
Similar to what you'd be doing during an emergency situation, right? The person talking on the radio is just trying to focus on listening and talking, so you don't have time to try to write down all the information you're getting or anything like that. You really got to have a team to keep it going. So
the operator's getting the information, the logger's recording the information. So
I don't know. I mean, I could sit here and ramble on about cool things about radio, like walkie-talkies are radios, and you can program radios to talk to walkie-talkies. So, when I got my license and got a radio like this, I'm talking to my kids saying, look, this radio can talk to this radio. And you can program it and make it do it. And, it's fun.
I see this as a way to connect to connect generations.
It is.
To remember technology and not lose the knowledge of the technology that came before, that everything else is based on. I mean, we didn't mention it, but everything else is based on radio. Every communication that we do is really based on radio.
Cell phone is radio communication. It is.
Satellites are radio communication. Everything.
It truly is.
It's just a different
Television. Television is a part of the electromagnetic radio spectrum. It's all radio. All radio all the time.
All right. Anything else? I mean, I feel like we could talk all day because
we
there's
could.
so many things to cover. But
Come to Field Day.
come to Field Day.
June 25th and 26th. If you drive by Mulberry Rec, you'll probably see that you might notice something that you're like, oh wait, when did that get there? And that's probably our big antenna.
a 42-foot antenna mast that we're going to have out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it's not a little thing. It's a big antenna. You'll be able to see it. Hopefully we'll have the club trailer there, and we'll have
think that's
radio
coming.
and set up.
But you shouldn't miss it. We'll be out in the park area under the pavilions.
So if it's a hot day, you're in the shade.
We'll have some shade.
That could be important that day. So
And we'll be there after the sun goes down too. So come on out.
come on out in the evening. Gentlemen, thank you for being here, and thank
you
you
for having us.
the lessons I've learned today, and I look forward to,
Buying a radio.
well, I don't know if I'm going to buy a radio yet. We'll see about that.
I'll loan you one.
You'll love
you
one,
go.
and
can
I can
listen.
listen. Okay, yeah, my new hobby.
That's right.
Awesome.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.